welcome to Formula Masters China Series 2014. I'm Vivian Sun. We've got a sensational show for you here today, and in fact, it's going to be a great season all year long. But we're going to start by explaining a little bit about the Formula Masters China Series and why you need to watch it. Hi and welcome back. Joining me now is Mark Dreyer. Hi Mark.
Hi, it's great to be here, thanks.
Now explain to us how the racing works.
Well, the format is actually pretty simple. There are 6 race weekends throughout the season. At each stop there are 3 races, and for the first and the third race, slightly longer than the middle one, and there are a few more points on offer as well.
Sounds good. So what's the best thing about this series, and why should the viewers at home keep watching?
Well, the reason everyone at home has to watch this race action is this. These cars are incredibly fast, and the drivers are pushing themselves and their cars to the absolute limit. There's a huge team of professional technicians behind every driver that you don't see on TV, and I can guarantee this won't just be a slow parade of cars around the track. There's going to be a lot of action.
Well, sounds like the perfect mix of thrills and spills. The tension is building here with the first race of the season just minutes away. But before we go to the grid, let's find out a little more about the Formula Masters China Series. Could you introduce the China Formula Master Series to us?
Formula Master China Series was invented, or we invented Volkswagen Group of China in 2013 in order to develop young Chinese but also Asian new motorsport talents. We have within China 3 GT racing series where we actually want to foster and develop young drivers from our side.
So where are these young drivers from?
We actually have 18 drivers signed up for the whole season. They come from 9 countries. So it's a very international, very competitive field.
So talking about racing, what matters the most in your opinion?
Obviously you have to be quick, but you have to be mentally really fit. You have to have confidence in your own driving abilities, and at the same time you have to find in a split second the right decision to do, where to go into the corner, where to step onto the brake, where to step onto the throttle. And it's a combination of drivability, of personal fitness, of physical and psychological fitness, and then in the end it's also to have fun in what you do to be successful.
Definitely. And what, in your opinion, is the car's most standout feature?
I think the most standout feature in our car is obviously the engine, which comes from Volkswagen Group background. But the combination of the car, the engine and the tires, which has proven to be successful, which has proven to be strong, still needs somebody to drive it.
And talking about these young drivers, what could the future hold for these drivers and how far would they go?
In the end of the day, the sky is the limit, but we have already proven from the 2013 Formula Master China Series that we have young drivers already getting one step further. So I think that is a proof of the abilities and of the resources of those young drivers to go anywhere where they actually want to go to, and this is what we also want to showcase with Formula Masters China Series and the connected other racing series within Volkswagen Group of China.
Now here we are at the Zhuhai International Circuit, which is in southern China, just a short distance away from Hong Kong and Macau. And this is actually the first international circuit ever built in China. It's 4.319 kilometers in length, with 14 turns in all. But before we go racing, let's get to know the track a little better through the eyes of British driver Dan Wells, who races for Cebu Pacific Air by KCMG.
Hello, my name is Dan Wells and welcome to a lap of the Zhuhai International Circuit in less than ideal conditions. So we're approaching the first corner in 5th gear, notching down to 3rd and running a bit around the outside. As you can see, quite tricky conditions, hard on the gas, struggling a bit with oversteer on the exit. Very wet at the moment, so this corner is flat, hard on the gas before coming to turn 4. Brakes down to 2nd gear. I got a bit of oversteer here just to correct the car and avoid the big puddle on the right hand side. Now we'll just ensure that hitting all the gear changes correctly. Again, another flat right-hander. hard on the gas all the way down, braking at about 120 yards, down to second gear. Struggle a little bit with the rear locking there in the car, but get a good rotation and avoid the car on the exit who's come off us and about to rejoin. Now we take a little bit of a breather, halfway around the lap now, coming up to turn 9. A tricky braking zone from 5th down to 2nd gear, struggling with the brakes a little bit and then getting the car nicely rotated. Bit of oversteer on the exit there as we struggle for traction in these wet conditions, and then throwing the car into the left-hander. We get some quite good rotation around there and hard on the gas down to turn 12, the penultimate corner on the circuit. We come here about 100 yards, hard on the brakes, very tricky corner in these conditions. Get a nice rotation at the apex and then hard on the gas. Again, struggling a touch with traction, but not too bad. And again, just thinking about the last corner on the circuit, very fast on the dry, a 5th gear corner, but we have to use 4th in these conditions. And braking just around about the 50-yard board. And then getting a nice rotation, struggling a bit with the front end there, but hard on the gas to complete a lap of the Zhuhai International Circuit.
So Mark, talk us through with what happened with qualifying yesterday.
Well, the weather has been the main topic of conversation here. It's just dry for the first time this race weekend, but we're just beginning to feel a few drops here as well, so very difficult for the drivers. They've been practicing on wet weather tyres the entire race weekend, and now we're not even sure at this stage what's going to happen with the race. But we'll just have a quick look at the starting positions from the grid. Just alongside us here, 19-year-old South African Matt Swanepoel. He's from the KCMG team. He goes in pole position. Alongside him is his teammate, 17-year-old James Munro from New Zealand. And a third member of that team, Dan Wells, the British driver who's a few years older than them. He's in 4th, so great start for that particular team. In 3rd is the Japanese driver Yuya Motojima. A little bit further down the grid we have 18-year-old Hong Kong driver Matt Solomon. He was 5th overall last year. He's the highest placed returning driver from last season. In 10th we have Yuan Bo. He's the top Chinese driver on the grid for the first race. And then 15-year-old Dharma Hutomo from Indonesia goes in 16th place.
Great stuff, Mark. Let's go straight to the race.
Early season jitters saw a few of the drivers stall their cars on the grid, prompting a number of delays. When the cars did finally get away, pole sitter Matt Swanepoel stalled on the grid and later had to rejoin at the back of the field. It wasn't all bad for the Cebu Pacific Air by KCMG team though, because Swanepoel's 2 teammates took the lead. James Munro had a clear shot into turn 1, while Dan Wells in 4th was able to move up into 2nd after Yuya Motojima had to navigate around Swanepoel's stalled car in front of him on the grid. That was just the start of the drama though, with a multi-car incident moments later. Aston Hare from the Meritus GP team spun into the gravel, with Akhil Rabindra and Sean Hudspeth also involved. Rabindra was able to rejoin the action, but Hare's race was over, and Hudspeth was furious after his Eurasia Motorsport car was left badly damaged. That brought out the safety car while the debris was cleared from the track. When racing began again on lap 3, Munro stayed out in front. Wells held on to 2nd, with Motojima in 3rd. 1 lap later, with Munro leading the field through turns 4 and 5, China's Yuan Bo briefly passed 15-year-old Indonesian Dharma Hutomo for 4th, but then Hutomo retook him, and Hong Kong driver Ronald Wu also went by Yuan. Back at the front, the 17-year-old Kiwi was looking comfortable and posted the fastest lap time of the race. Super licensed driver Yuya Motojima in 3rd hadn't raced Formula cars for several years, but he was pushing Dan Wells hard for 2nd. Meanwhile, in midfield, there was some shuffling for spaces with lots of aggressive driving styles on view. On lap 6, Yuan Bo slipped past Ronald Wu on the home straight to regain 5th position. 1 lap later, Matt Swanepoel's rollercoaster race continued. Having seen his pole position slip away after stalling at the start, he carved his way through the field, taking Yuan Bo into turn 1 here. But he would later draw a 30-second penalty for getting assistance from the marshals earlier on. Just behind him, Anderson Martomo spun out early in lap 8, and though he was able to rejoin the race, the Meritus driver fell down to 10th in the field. The race had been shortened slightly down to 10 laps due to the delays prior to the start, and Motojima knew he had to make a move. As luck would have it though, 2 laps from home, Wells had an issue with his gear linkage, and that meant he could no longer hold off the Japanese driver, and MotoGP passed him on the final lap to go into second. Munro's faultless race continued to the end as he built up a lead of nearly 5.5 seconds. He came round to finish the first race of the season in front, followed by Yuya Motojima and Dan Wells completing a 1-3 finish for the KCMG team.
Congratulations, James. Mentally, it must have been a difficult start for you with so many false starts. How did you cope with that?
Yeah, I mean, I was wondering what was happening. We did have a long delay, and I didn't let it get to my head, though. I just tried to stay relaxed, and then obviously Matt overshot his grid box and then messed up his start, and that certainly made it a lot easier. I had a clear run into the first corner, and I just put my head down and tried to get a good gap over the first few laps.
I got a good start and went around the outside of the Japanese super license car. Happy with, and we were running okay pace. I was pretty happy, but then set 2-3 laps from home, I lost upshift. So I sort of had to trail around trying to get it into gear and losing quite a lot of time, and so I lost second place.
So confirmation of race 1 results there. James Munro of New Zealand in first, Yuya Motojima of Japan in second, and Dan Wells from Great Britain in third. 2 Chinese finishers from the first race, Yuan Bo in 5th and Bao Jinlong in 9th. Matt Swanepoel was 12th and the final finisher from the race after his 30-second penalty.
After the first race, the drivers have just been given a quick refresher course on how to start their cars. So fingers crossed, we should get away first this time. The race 1 winner, James Munro, is behind me in pole position 1 right now. Mark, how did the rest of the cars line up?
Well, the starting positions for race 2 are actually made up from the fastest lap time for each driver from race 1. As it happens, it's the same top 3 from the finishing position. So we have Munro, Motojima, Wells on the grid, the top 3 there. Then comes Matt Solomon, the 18-year-old driver from Hong Kong. Dharma Hutomo has had problems on the formation lap, so he was due to start in 5th, but he's not yet on the grid. So we're still waiting to see whether he gets here in time or whether he starts from pit lane. Next to me here is the South African driver Matt Swanepoel, who had all those problems on the starting grid, but he was in pole position from the first race, so he's in good form. He starts in 6th position, just ahead of Bao Jinlong, the top Chinese driver in the race. Just one final thing, some of the quicker drivers will be starting from the back of the grid. That's because they were unable to record a fastest lap time in the first race, but they'll be trying to make their way through the field as the race progresses. But the rain is literally now just coming down, and it's starting to get pretty heavy pretty quickly, so it's going to be very, very tough for these drivers.
Thanks, Mark. Let's go to all the action in race 2 now.
The formation lap prior to the start of every race tends to be a quiet procession around the track, but in this weather nothing was guaranteed. The rain was so bad that even at a much reduced speed, danger was still lurking around every corner. Before the race had even started, Matt Swanepoel in 6th position was taken out by Star Racing Academy driver Bao Jinlong, with the South African's car left in no states to continue. That brought out the safety car, but still there were problems. While Bao's car was being removed from the track, his Zen Motorsport teammate Ronald Wu spun out, with both now out of the race. Still the safety car continued, and still the rain came down in sheets. Dharma Hutomo hadn't even made it as far as the formation lap, spinning out before he could even line up on the grid. Next to go was Anderson Martono, who spun out with the drivers still under the safety car. He was able to rejoin the field, but was right at the back. Conditions had left the stewards with no option but to leave the safety car out for 4 laps of the 7-lap race. Just before the safety car finally moved aside, Hu Junjin ran into problems, with half of the field now affected before true racing began. When the cars were let go on lap 5, pole sitter James Munro held his position and began to build a gap. Yuya Motojima followed behind him in 2nd, and although he attempted to catch up, the Porsche Carrera Cup Japan driver couldn't get close. With several cars finding turn 4 tricky in the rain, Mandla Mdekani did a 180 as he slid off the track, while squeezed between his 2 Meritus GP teammates Aston Hare and Anderson Martono. Mdekani managed to get back on the track, but he was now dead last of all the cars that remained. With the race now coming down to a 3-lap shootout, Munro still led from MotoGP at the front. Following the leading pair were Dan Wells and Matt Solomon. Wells in fact ended the race with his car stuck in 4th gear, which made it pretty interesting around the hairpin in particular, but it cost him a couple of places late on. Anderson Martono's second spin of the afternoon, this time on lap 6, saw his race over prematurely. Also on lap 6, Matt Solomon went past the struggling Wells, giving the Eurasia Motorsport team its first podium position of the season. James Munro had a 3-second cushion by the end and showed he was equally at home in both wet and dry conditions, with his victory giving KCMG 2 wins out of 2. Yuya Motojima followed him over the line for the second straight race, with Solomon in 3rd.
Congratulations again, James. Another win. Was it harder than the first race?
Yeah, thanks very much. I mean, it was quite a short race actually by the time we actually got going behind the safety car. If anything, it was a little easier than the first race, because of the distance, and also just that I had much better visibility than all the other drivers, which made it a lot easier for me, so I was able to pull a gap.
Incredible conditions. Was it as bad out there as it looks from here?
Yeah, it's okay. I'm happy with 3rd after quite a difficult start to the weekend. Obviously, I missed all the testing because I had exams. But I'm here now. I'm on the podium, so we're ready to get our 2014 season going. So,
good job.
Thank you.
The official results of race 2, James Munro of New Zealand with his second win of the weekend, Yuya Motojima once again finishing in 2nd place, and Matt Solomon with his first podium of the season in 3rd. Yuan Bo was again the top Chinese driver to finish, and Yin Haitao, the other Chinese driver there, in 9th.
Welcome back to Zhuhai. We're here again for race 3, and we've had torrential rain this morning. Mark, what's the latest?
That's right, heavy rain all throughout the night as well, and the elements are still coming down on us. It's not looking good. We've just had word there's going to be a driver's briefing, so I'm afraid it doesn't sound good.
Okay, let's go and hear what they have to say.
For safety reasons, the stewards have decided that we will not cancel this race, but they will postpone it to a further date.
Mark, very disappointing decision, but safety always has to come first in racing.
Absolutely right. What we're having with the standing water on the track here, it means that as soon as the cars being so low to the ground hit these puddles, they just slide straight across. And of course, you can't race in those conditions.
Like a surfing board.
Absolutely. It's more like surfing than racing today, yeah.
Okay, let's go speak to the pole sitters from Cebu Pacific Air by KCMG team. It's been a great weekend. It's a great way to kick off the season. And what do you guys take away from this race?
Sure, there are a lot of positives that have come out this weekend. I'm feeling a lot more confident with the car and got a lot more experience after this weekend, which is important for me as I've only done 1 year in cars, so lots to look forward to.
And for you, James, I have to say it has been a perfect weekend for you so far. So presumably you wanted this to go on as long as possible?
Yeah, definitely, because I was quite confident of having another good result in that race. So I'm a little disappointed that it's been cancelled, but I think at the end of the day it was the right decision because it was quite dangerous out there by the looks of it.
And Matt, you had bad luck for the first 2 races, but you get to keep your pole position for the rescheduled race.
Yeah, for sure, there were problems that were beyond my control in the first 2 races, which is racing, but pole position for the next race will be good, something to look forward to.
Well, thanks very much, guys. We'll see you in Shanghai. Despite the rain, we've still had a lot of great action of our racing weekend here in Zhuhai. Let's go and take a look at the best overtaking move of our weekend in our Masters Pass.
Matt Swanepoel in the dark blue number 49 car at the back behind Yuenbo, and Ronald Wu in the orange, who gets his line into turn 1 all wrong, goes too wide. Swanepoel nips by on the inside and exits the turn in front.
Pretty good move there, and there will be lots more of that throughout the season. Let's go and check out the classification of the drivers and the teams.
So James Monroe tops the drivers' classification after 2 races with 33 points. Yuya Motojima of Japan second with 25 and Dan Wells third with 16. And here just rounding out the 18 drivers in the field. And for the team classifications, Cebu Pacific Air by KCMG in first with 48 points, Eurasia Motorsport in second, and Japan's super licensed team in third, just 1 point behind.
What a great way to start was sure to be a fantastic season all year long. This group of young, talented drivers have experienced the whole range of emotions and still had time to show their skills on the track. And they can't wait to get back in their cars again. But we'll see you all soon in Shanghai.